Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks.
Eleanor Roosevelt, 1884–1962, American First Lady, who fought for human rights. Eleanor Roosevelt, born October 11, 1884 in New York, New York, U.S., died November 7, 1962 in New York City, New York, was the wife of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, and a United Nations diplomat and humanitarian. She was one of the world's most admired and powerful women at the time. During her 12 years as First Lady, Eleanor's unprecedented breadth of activities and her advocacy of liberal causes made her nearly as divisive as her husband. She established regular White House press conferences for female correspondents, and wire services that had previously not employed women were forced to do so in order to have a representative present in the event that important news broke. When local officials in Alabama insisted on segregating seating at a public meeting by race, Eleanor carried a folding chair to all sessions and carefully placed it in the center aisle. Her advocacy for the rights of African Americans, youth, and the poor helped to bring into government groups that had previously been excluded from the political process. Eleanor was a UN delegate who served as chairman of the Commission on Human Rights, 1946–51, and was instrumental in the drafting and adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. Here are the best quotes about Eleanor Roosevelt.
With the new day comes new strength and new thought. Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. A woman is like a tea bag, you can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water. Freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility. For the person who is unwilling to grow up, the person who does not want to carry his own weight, this is a frightening prospect. If life were predictable, it would cease to be life, and be without flavor. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it. Do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. You'll be damned if you do, and damned if you don't. In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. You must do the things you think you cannot do. Happiness is not a goal, it is a byproduct. Never allow a person to tell you no who doesn't have the power to say yes. It takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan. It is not fair to ask of others what you are not willing to do yourself. People grow through experience if they meet life honestly and courageously. This is how character is built. I think, at a child's birth, if a mother could ask a fairy godmother to endow it with the most useful gift, that gift should be curiosity. Probably the happiest period in life most frequently is in middle age, when the eager passions of youth are cooled, and the infirmities of age not yet begun, as we see that the shadows, which are at morning and evening so large, almost entirely disappear at midday. You have to accept whatever comes, and the only important thing is that you meet it with courage and with the best that you have to give. Since you get more joy out of giving joy to others, you should put a good deal of thought into the happiness that you are able to give. I once had a rose named after me, and I was very flattered. But I was not pleased to read the description in the catalog, no good in a bed, but fine up against a wall. We are afraid to care too much, for fear that the other person does not care at all. When will our consciences grow so tender that we will act to prevent human misery rather than avenge it? Justice cannot be for one side alone, but must be for both. The giving of love is an education in itself. I believe that anyone can conquer fear by doing the things he fears to do, provided he keeps doing them until he gets a record of successful experience behind him. Remember always that you not only have the right to be an individual, you have an obligation to be one. Sometimes I wonder if we shall ever grow up in our politics and say definite things which mean something, or whether we shall always go on using generalities to which everyone can subscribe, and which mean very little. Life must be lived and curiosity kept alive. One must never, for whatever reason, turn his back on life. Friendship with oneself is all important, because without it one cannot be friends with anyone else in the world. When life is too easy for us, we must beware, or we may not be ready to meet the blows which sooner or later come to everyone, rich or poor. What one has to do usually can be done. I cannot believe that war is the best solution. No one won the last war, and no one will win the next war. A little simplification would be the first step toward rational living, I think. One's philosophy is not best expressed in words, it is expressed in the choices one makes, and the choices we make are ultimately our responsibility. In all our contacts, it is probably the sense of being really needed and wanted which gives us the greatest satisfaction and creates the most lasting bond. Only a man's character is the real criterion of worth. You can never really live anyone else's life, not even your child's. The influence you exert is through your own life, and what you've become yourself. When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die. Anyone who knows history, particularly the history of Europe, will, I think, recognize that the domination of education or of government by any one particular religious faith is never a happy arrangement for the people. Perhaps nature is our best assurance of immortality. What you don't do can be a destructive force. There are practical little things in housekeeping which no man really understands. The only advantage of not being too good a housekeeper is that your guests are so pleased to feel how very much better they are. I think that somehow, we learn who we really are and then live with that decision.